Hi there, today we're going to talk about ciprofloxacin, from symptoms to the side effects on and off target. Ciprofloxacin is used by doctors to treat patients who suffer from a range of conditions such as urinary tract infections, anthrax, and many more. Ciprofloxacin is a second-generation synthetic antibacterial agent that was synthesized in the 1980s by a group of scientists at the German pharmacological company Bayer. Ciprofloxacin belongs to the family of quinolones, in particular the fluoroquinolones, a group of antimicrobial agents affecting topoisomerase. Fluoroquinolones are highly potent drugs in comparison to the first quinolone antibacterial class of drugs, which has significantly lower potency. It is a broad-spectrum antibiotic effective against both gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. The first therapeutically useful agent in the quinolone class was nalidixic acid. Ciprofloxacin is the most potent fluoroquinolone on the market due to its structure. The main function is the addition of the fluorine on position 6, which increases the activity of the drug as well as its cellular uptake. The pyrazinoyl ring on position 7 is a basic substituent which can form a zwitterion with a carboxylic acid group at position 3. The cyclopropyl substituent was also made at position 1. In 1979, pharmaceutical scientist Kyrin Gishar published a patent for a drug that was much more potent than nalidixic acid. That drug was enoxacin. The better potency was achieved by structural modifications such as attaching a fluorine atom to the quinolone ring. This led to many companies trying to improve and develop new antibacterial agents of the fluoroquinolone class. Bayer put their focus on making very small changes to the enoxacin molecule. In 1985, just 4 years after the patent for the enoxacin drug, they published their study for a fluoroquinolone antibacterial agent, where the only change in chemical structure from enoxacin was the addition of a single carbon atom forming a pyrazinoyl ring. It was this structure that led to the form of ciprofloxacin. By changing the functional group of the structure, the potency increased from 2-fold to 10-fold against most strains of gram-negative bacteria. For example, the change led to a 4-fold improvement in activity against a gram-negative pathogen, Pseudomonas aeruginosa. This is currently the most potent drug on the market against this specific pathogen. Ciprofloxacin is synthesized in 7 steps and is applicable to a wide range of fluoroquinolones. 2,4-dichloro-5-fluorobenzyl chloride is condensed with diethyl malonate. Magnesium ethoxide is used as a catalyst, giving us this molecule. This is then partially hydrolyzed and decarboxylated with p-toluene, sulfonic acid water. This reactions give us ethyl 2,4-dichloro-5-fluorobenzyl acetate. A further condensation reaction occurs with triethyl orthoformate in refluxing acetic anhydride, resulting in this molecule's formation. It is then treated with cyclopropylamine to form this molecule. Cyclization of this molecule with sodium hydroxide yields 7-chloro-1-cyclopropyl-6-fluoro-1,4-dihydro-4-oxoquinolone 3-carboxylic acid, which is finally condensed with piperazine in hot DMSO to afford the target compound ciprofloxacin. In 1962, nalidixic acid was synthesized and was known to be the first useful therapeutic agent amongst certain class of compounds. Different analogues were also tested but had no therapeutic use or advantage. In the 1980s, enoxacin was discovered, which improved the broad-spectrum activity. The development of enoxacin was based on the addition of a single fluorine atom at position 6, which improved the activity and cellular uptake of the drug drastically, controlling DNA gyrase and bacterial potency. The basic substituent, that is the pyrazinoyl ring at position 7, improved the molecule's pharmacokinetic properties, allowing it to be well absorbed orally with a bioavailability of 80 to 95%, which is almost equal to IV. This ring has basic properties as able to form a zwitterion with a carboxylic acid group at position 3. Likewise, the cyclopropyl substituent at position 1 also increased the broad-spectrum activity, and the replacement of nitrogen at position 8 with carbon reduced adverse reactions and increased its activity at Staphylococcus aureus. This therefore led to ciprofloxacin, which is now known as the most active fluoroquinolone against gram-negative bacteria. Ciprofloxacin is one of the broad-spectrum antibiotics of the fluoroquinolone class. Fluoroquinolones inhibit the replication and transcription of bacterial DNA by stabilizing the complex formed between DNA gyrase and topoisomerase 4, with the drug showing 100-fold selectivity for the bacterial enzyme of the corresponding enzyme in human cells. Ciprofloxacin acts by inhibiting enzymes DNA gyrase in gram-negative bacteria and topoisomerase 4 in gram-positive. DNA gyrase has the same role as topoisomerase 4 in reverse, and is required when the DNA double helix is being supercoiled after replication and transcription. DNA gyrase consists of 2 A subunits which cut and reseal DNA and 2 B subunits which induce negative supercoiling. Ciprofloxacin inhibits DNA gyrase by binding to the A subunit at a point in time when enzyme DNA complex is made, strands are being cut but not yet resealed. This stops DNA replication as well as breaks the helix. The damage to DNA causes endonucleases to form which break down the DNA further. Ciprofloxacin has a higher affinity for topoisomerase 4 rather than DNA gyrase. Hence, it is more potent against gram-positive bacteria. Mammalian cells do not possess DNA gyrase or topoisomerase 4. Instead, they have topoisomerase 2. Topoisomerase has a naturally very low affinity for ciprofloxacin, which explains the low toxicity to host cells. Some of the most common uses for the drug is to treat UTIs, endocarditis, and bone infections. UTIs predominantly affect the kidneys and bladder. Cystitis is a bacterial infection of the bladder which causes the sufferer to have a constant urge to urinate, as well as cloudy and strong-smelling urine, and a general feeling of unwellness. If the urinary tract infection is not treated, it can lead to the kidneys becoming damaged and spread the infection into the bloodstream. The causes of the UTIs are from the bacteria in the gut entering the urinary tract via the urethra. Women are more likely to get infected as the urethra is shorter and closer to the anus. Endocarditis is a rare condition which infects the inner lining of the heart. The risk of infection is substantially increased if the patient has previously suffered from congenital heart disease, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, or have a prosthetic heart valve. Some of the most common symptoms are high temperature, chills, headache, joint muscle pain, and pale skin. If left untreated, it can result in the disruption of blood, causing damage to the valves of the heart. This can lead to further complications such as stroke and heart failure. Diagnostic tools consist of chest X-ray, ECG, and echocardiogram. Anthrax is a bacterial infection caused by the gram-positive bacterium Bacillus anthracis. The bacteria are able to form spores which are damage-resistant, allowing them to survive for a long time in the soil. Humans get infected with anthrax mainly by consuming animal products that are contaminated with the bacteria. Symptoms can take 1 day to 2 months to appear, and there are different types of symptoms dependent on where the bacterial infection occurs. Gastrointestinal consists of sore throat, fever, chills, stomach pain, and swelling of the stomach. And inhalation are cough, chest discomfort, and headache. Unwanted reactions with ciprofloxacin can range from mild allergic reactions to severe side effects. Mild allergic reactions may only result in a skin rash, however the most frequent manifestations are gastrointestinal disorders. It is because ciprofloxacin works by killing off the bacteria that causes infections. They don't just target harmful bacteria, they can also wipe out populations of good bacteria in the gut. This results in gastrointestinal disorders such as diarrhea, nausea, and vomiting. The main side effects related to the central nervous system which have been reported and included in the BNF are peripheral neuropathy, photosensitivity, depression, amongst others. Although all of these are considered rare or uncommon, the cause of depression in trials with lab rats has been linked to decreased levels of GABA and serotonin in the CNS.